The easiest way to lose an asset is to let the world know you own it. We are taught to believe that real estate success is a loud, structural statement. We expect the sprawling lawn in the gated community. We expect the limestone arches and the heavy iron gates that signal to the neighborhood that you have, finally, arrived. We are conditioned by a hyper-visible culture to assume that wealth must be inhabited visually. But it doesn't. When you finally cross the threshold of true cash flow, the universe does not provide a balcony view. The walls of your rented apartment do not suddenly expand. The leaking radiator in the hallway of your complex does not magically fix itself. Instead, a cold realization settles into your spine. You look at the digital deed on your screen. You look at the property address in a state you have never visited. And then, you do the most terrifying thing a modern consumer can do. In an era of nonstop architectural flex, you close the laptop. You walk down 3 flights of concrete stairs, and you step out into the rain to catch the subway. Completely, utterly, anonymous. You tell absolutely no one. Because you realize, the moment you tell your landlord you own 5 other buildings, you change the baseline gravity of your entire life. Think back to your late 20s. The relentless, geometric trap of the suburban dream. You remember the exact texture of those winter dinner conversations with colleagues. Watching them sign 30-year notes at 7% interest on homes that required 2 hours of commuting every single day. You watched them trade the currency of their youth for a manicured lawn, logged meticulously into their identity as homeowners. They were trading 50 hours a week under fluorescent lights just to maintain the lifestyle infrastructure of an empty structure. You remember the phantom obligations, the constant anxiety over property tax assessments, the $3,000 bill for a cracked foundation, the subtle, suffocating realization that they did not own the house. The house owned them. It was a beautiful brick-and-mortar cage that required them to say yes to a toxic corporate structure forever. To cope, you developed an alternative metric, a quiet, clinical fixation on liquidity. While your peers spent their weekends at Home Depot buying status symbols for their lawns, you stayed in your tiny, white-walled box. You opened a spreadsheet. You calculated the capitalization rates of working-class duplexes in the Rust Belt. You began to view every square foot of your personal living space not as a measure of your worth, but as a drain on your freedom. A larger apartment wasn't just luxury. It was $500 a month that couldn't buy equity elsewhere. So, you capped your footprint. You signed another lease on a room that looked like a transition phase. Your family thought you were struggling. Your friends offered to pay for dinner because they assumed your small space meant a small bank account. You accepted their pity in silence. You watched their lives move forward through the glass of your phone screen. Weddings you skipped, exotic vacations you couldn't justify, while you down payment funded your third out-of-state property. You became a ghost living inside the real estate machine. Your assets were growing, but your visible signature on earth remained completely unchanged. You convinced yourself it was an economic math problem. You told yourself that blood, equity, and compounding interest required total insulation from social validation. Then came the year the system cracked. It wasn't a sudden economic collapse. It was a slow, agonizing inflation crunch that hit the American middle class like a blunt instrument. Suddenly, your peers who bought the massive houses were drowning. The variable interest rates shifted. The property taxes doubled. The corporate layoffs began, and their massive, beautiful structures turned into financial sinkholes. But your small apartment remained insulated. Your rent was fixed. Your liabilities were zero. When the hot water heater broke in your unit, you didn't panic. You didn't check your savings account. You texted the property manager and went back to sleep. The structural risk belonged to someone else. On the first of the month, the dashboard updates. It doesn't make a sound. There are no fireworks in your rented living room. Just 5 separate deposits from a management company in Ohio. 5 working-class families paying off your principal. 5 properties depreciating against your tax burden. You look out your small window at the city skyline. You see the towering office buildings where thousands of people are currently trading their sanity to pay off interest on debt they accumulated to look important. You realize that the modern world is entirely built on an illusion of ownership. You are precisely the same person you were when you were broke. The paint is still peeling near your baseboards. The linoleum in your kitchen is still faded. But your risk profile has completely dissolved. You have detached your survival from your physical location. You have achieved the ultimate asymmetric advantage. You have the balance sheet of an institution with the footprint of a drifter. True luxury in a hyperinflated society is the absolute absence of financial noise. Let them have the suburban house. Let them have the 30-year anchor and the fragile status that requires absolute corporate obedience. You will keep your 600 square foot box. You will keep your old car. Because the loudest person in the market is always the most vulnerable to the next interest rate hike. And the quiet tenant sitting in the corner of the laundromat is usually the one who owns the block.